does the editing, you or Aaron?
I do. So there's this question is like a lot of layers to it. The editing for me is I spent a ton of time editing, and right now I'm really in a phase where I need to get help because I feel like I don't want to dilute myself for all of the various opportunities that we've been provided. I don't want to dilute myself so much where I'm editing so much that I'm just exhausted, and I don't have the brain power to be able to apply myself and be effective in the opportunities that have come and that I've worked really hard to create. So we're kind of in a growing pain phase right now with that. As far as posting, I think that I take it way too seriously. I think Alex and I both need to just like be cooler with posting a photo with 3 words or maybe even no caption. I see some people post a photo without a caption and I'm like, wow, I could not do that. But we can. We don't have to elaborate on things the way we do because we both do that. Like I will sit and make a post for 20 minutes and think about all the elements and make sure that I have all the tags. Like, oh my gosh, I take it too seriously, but I think it's kind of finding the balance in that because I don't hold myself back necessarily because I know that I want to post and that I need to cover these elements that I care so much about, but at the same time, I think I could relax a little bit on that and just be like, check out this photo and like not say anything with it. And,
we're gonna have a group intervention today. I want Emily to post a picture today with no caption.
So I think
we'll all be in on it.
To get anywhere, you kind of have to be obsessed with something and take it really seriously. So at some point, we have to just like take a deep breath and be like, okay, we don't have to take it so seriously. We're moving in the right path. The terrain is moving. But you know, if I have any advice to someone that's wanting to start, it's be obsessed with it and take it seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, you know, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress here, right? Like, get content out. People like authentic content. You don't have to over-edit these things. You don't have to, you know, and I see a lot of people do that where they get locked up by like, oh, I got to make it perfect. I got to make it perfect. And it's like, well, now you're posting once a month because you're spending so much time perfecting this thing instead of just getting it out there. So, you know, don't put out garbage that you don't edit at all, but also don't get obsessed with trying to do something perfectly. I think Hoonigan's a good example of this. You know, Hoonigan is not always the highest production value. Sometimes they are, right? And those are planned events, but most of the time they're not. And people just want to consume the content. So, like, just progress. Yeah,
absolutely. Moving on to question 4. I'm going to start with the one and only JKD. That's her handle right there, if you guys want to follow Jacklyn. Post timing and ideas on how to get a post to go viral, tips and tricks. Jacklyn does a lot of posting, not only for a Cars Tour, for NASCAR, for herself. What is your recommendation on making something go viral or posting times and that kind of stuff?
I feel like I just got the hardest question out of everybody. Can I trade? Oh, gosh. I pass.
Pass. Well,
posting timing, I mean, I think it just all depends. First, it depends on your social media channels. All of them are different, right? And then it also kind of depends on your audience. You can look at the times that they're most likely online. I have found on my personal channels, evenings, Fridays have been like my biggest day, and Sunday evenings, which is so weird. Like, I would think people are doing something else other than on there, but I'm on there, so I guess everyone else is too. But I've found the most success in those days. Businesses and consistency, you know, you want to do things daily or every other day on a lot of instances. Going viral, some of it is about trends. I've noticed that. I have a TikTok as well, which
TikTok, what's
makes
that?
me feel like I am so much younger than I am to say that. But I have a TikTok, and a lot of that is trends or certain music choices that you pick. There's so many other people here that are larger than I am on channels, so they could have better tips. But
I wanted your insight. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed. And the biggest thing, you've kind of hit on it some, Emily, is consistency. Just being consistent will continually build your content and your audience.
Right.
Posting once a month is not going to do it. It's not. People are going to be like, oh, who is that? Where did they come from? Where
Right.
were they? So being consistent and choosing a quote unquote plan for yourself. If you're a business and you say, hey, I have this story, or we have an event we want to talk about, it's just staying committed to that and on top of it and keeping it top of mind. Like I purposely have to tell myself, hey, go post on social media. It's still not like natural to me, but I try to make sure, hey, it's a priority for me to share this, to talk about a story, to maybe laugh at myself for wearing my shirt backwards all day, or just being authentic online.
Okay. Alex?
As far as post timing for me, it's not. I don't have a social media schedule. I don't go about it like that. And sometimes, and I'm sure this is not, everybody kind of has an opinion. I don't know that there is an actual right answer. But for me, what I do is, if there's a week that, and I know consistency is important, but if there's a week where I'm like, if I just put this out, like I'm wasting people's time, I don't post it. But at the same time, I'm like, if I'm doing really neat stuff that day, or I've got some good ideas, I kind of post when the creativity is there. But as far as timing, like for example, I posted last night at like 12:30. I knew when I did that it was absolutely going to go nowhere, but I wanted to post it anyway. So I try to post. My time is like midday on Instagram. YouTube I shoot for sometime before lunch, because I've noticed like at lunchtime people sit down and watch videos. So that's when I post as far as like YouTube goes. I know there's a lot of different theories with that as well, but for me that's what I found that works best for me.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to relate a story Jeff told me. Like, you don't know which videos are going to go viral. Clearly, you want them all to go viral. But Jeff, what was your #1 video on YouTube? And it wasn't something that he edited highly. It was here at the show, right? It was the Big Chief unveil.
Oh yeah, for a long time it was here. It was when it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. The Crow had this new Pro Mod car, and the new Crow, and I just put that up. It was shot on my phone, and I just put it up because it was there, and it did great for what it was, because it was part of the zeitgeist, to use one of those stupid words that everybody uses. But it tied in with, if you can do that, tie in with whatever's going on popular right now. I think Jacklyn said trends, and I hate trends, but at the same time, if it's going to help you, if you're going to ride the wave, then by all means take advantage of it.
Very good. Moving on, I'm going to start with Justin on this one. This is an interesting question. How do you handle trolls on social media? And do you respond to comments, positive and or negative?
Do not feed the trolls. I think everyone knows that. You're always going to have haters or whatever. I tell brands, if it's legitimate feedback, engage, right? Like, I think that's some of the best things that brands do. If someone has a problem, don't ignore it. Engage with them. If you make a mistake, we've seen that before, where you spell something wrong in a post or you do something and you get called out. Don't just delete it and edit your post and move on. Engage with them. And a lot of times you'll see them be like, oh, super cool, and then a bunch of people pile on like, that was badass, blah, blah, blah. So I think if the trolling is like just real internet trolling, you're not going to beat the internet, okay? So no one's going to win that battle. You're going to lose every time. So don't get engaged there. But do interact. Positive or negative feedback is still valuable feedback, and someone still took time to
It's
give
still
it to
engagement.
you. It's still engagement.
Yeah.
And there is certainly a social media strategy for posting highly flammable content to the internet and allowing it to become a place for people to argue. I think Hoonigan's doing that now with this kind of race series they got going on.
Right.
And people are going to jump in there and like, I love Supras and I hate whatever the other thing is, and now we're going to argue about it. If you're arguing on my brand's channel, great.
Right.
We're still in the conversation.
Still a view.
We're still getting the views. That does lead the algorithm to like, oh, okay, people are talking over here, right? So embrace it where you can, but don't become a troll farm, obviously.
I'm going to ask Emily, because she responds to, I think, almost every comment out there. What do you think on this topic?
Well, I mean, I will just straight up block and delete people if they're really yucky. I feel like I don't get that many bad comments on my stuff. Even on YouTube, they're few and far between. And I feel like it's because I either block or delete or I address them. And I like the ones where I can tell that they're still a little human, like, and so I'll go in and I'll, be kind with them and just say, I'm gonna try and give you another shot here because I think you're a good person and, I think you have potential, and it's really cool whenever you can turn a troll around. Sure. And I really like that. But at the same time, to not give them energy is a really good thing. I mean, if they have something to say and it's constructive criticism, which like I said, guys, I read all these comments. I'm really aware of the things that people don't like about me or the things that they're skeptical about, which I totally understand because we all judge each other, right? So like, I can use the word assess, which is a nicer, more palatable word, than it's more acceptable to assess someone rather than judge them, but we all do it. And so I don't blame half of them. I'm like, I understand, but you just kind of have to go in there and be yourself and realize some people are never going to like you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it can't hold you back,
Sure.
It's like a lot of times you'll find so many more kind comments than you will mean ones, so focus on the good ones.
That's a good answer.
I'm just going to add social media is one side of a person. When someone is on there making mean comments, they don't know you.
Right.
They see what you put out, what your content is out there. So finding peace in that they don't really know you. They just want to write whatever they want to write and move along with their day because they're only seeing this one thing. It helps.
I agree. Alex, I'm going to ask you and then I'll move on. How do you handle this?
It used to bug me really bad when I was young because I was like 16 when I started sharing stuff. And so people judged me pretty heavy on the youth side because they're like, oh, your dad's doing it for you. I was like, that is the one thing that gets under my skin the most. But as I've gotten older and kind of started sharing, I kind of realized like once I shared the things that I'm capable of and that I do, to attest to what you're saying, like people don't know until you tell them. So I started sharing a little bit more, and then you gain a little bit more respect, so to say, like once they start to realize that you're multifaceted or something like that. And that kind of slowed the comments down that were negative. And so thankfully, which I'm 24 now, so a little bit older, I don't receive those kind of comments nearly to the same extent. And so now it's more just like I read it and I'm like, okay, you're just having a really bad day. So yes, it does still get to me, especially when they nitpick something that's like Emily's saying, like they actually hit the nail on the head, and I'm like, man, you did call me out. I'm kind of wrong there. Did take a month to post that video or something like that. But at the same time, accept it, move along with it. It's gonna happen. I listen to people tell me sometimes, they're like, I misspell words on purpose so people will argue with me. And I'm like, you have way thicker skin than I do because I would not do that. That's just different perspective, like looking at it through a different lens. That's the only way I've learned to like deal with that.
Very good.
If I could just give a counterpoint, a lot of us up here are content creators, and that's our product, but I assume since we're at PRI, many of you are also manufacturers that are using social media trying to bring attention to your product, and that's what you're trying to sell is not social media. And I would, so if you're in that boat, I would take it the other way. We're all fans of the First Amendment, but if you're in my community and you're not contributing, then I have no problem at all hitting that delete button. And if somebody is out there bad-mouthing your product, and you can't keep up with the negativity, I would go the other way sometimes and say, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and delete that comment just so you can clean up your community and be more useful to the people who are legitimately there.
Great point.
I have just a quick example on that. We have a client that just launched a new truck in the off-road space, and one of another truck brand's fans came into the post and was like, oh, I would never buy this truck. Kibitech builds a much better truck. Like, I would definitely buy one from Kibby instead of you. And we responded as the brand and said, Kibby does build an amazing truck, and you would love having a Kibitech truck. And here comes at Kibitech saying, I love what you're doing at Black Lake. We both build badass trucks. So I'm like, well, that's a perfect win-win for everybody, right? And now both brands are aligned. Sometimes things are negative. Sometimes things are just fans throwing you out there into the mix for no reason, And you can work around those things and win.
Yeah, I have a brand business story. It's like Jeff was saying, many of you may have a business. So there was a TikTok video that went viral just a couple months ago about a dog watching the Dodgers game. And I don't know if anyone in here has seen it. Anyone? Yeah? I see some hands. Okay. I believe the dog's name was Toby. Is that right? Start with a T. But the dog was watching the Dodgers game. The woman that owned the dog posted it, and the Dodgers commented on it and said, "That is amazing. We want to send Toby a gift package." They wanted to send the dog something. Spoiler alert, they forgot, and they did not send a gift package. So the woman posted another video of the dog looking out the window and saying, "Where is our gift package, Dodgers?" Their comments, that also went viral. Many people commented, tagged the Dodgers, saying, "What are you doing? Can't believe you left Toby down. He's so sad." And the Dodgers responded with a complete content plan that they flew Toby to one of the games. They gave him a jersey. He sat in the suites, had endless bones. But my point is, you get negative comments on a business, and you have to pivot. And some poor intern, probably, that forgot to send the gift package, they had to do some damage control.
That's a great story. I had not heard of Toby, so I'll have to go look that up. That's awesome. Moving on, and I'll leave this one open. I know I've talked to all of you about this. As you grow your audience, you're going to get product offers and product endorsements, the good, the bad, the ugly. And as you grow, when people want you to use their products in your videos, do you only use the ones you actually use, or will you use something you don't actually use and say, "Oh, this is a wonderful wax," or how do you handle those kind of things as you grow? Because companies will approach you as you build your audience. And maybe I'll start with Emily. She was nodding her head.
Yes. So we work with a handful of awesome companies, and we use a lot of the products that all of us use in the shop daily. But there have been some products that we've been asked to use on integrations that we've never used before, and Aaron and I take it really seriously. We're like, we are going to test this out and make sure that we like it, make sure that it actually does what it says it does before we publish anything that says it works. So we're really serious about that, because not only because we want the brand to be communicated properly, but we want, if someone buys that because Emily and Aaron use it and they said it works awesome and it doesn't work, then that's not so great. Like, not only to communicate us as a brand that we would push something to our audience that doesn't actually work well, but it's not good for the brand, because they can go and badmouth the brand to the brand, and they can go badmouth us, and there's just a lot more to it, and there's heart behind anything that we encourage folks to try. And it's really funny, like, if you use something on the channel and you don't mention what it is or where you got it or how you liked it, you'll read comments of like, "Where'd you get that? What product is that? Where can I buy it? How did you like it?" And it's so funny, because like, human psychology is interesting, because you don't really want to be sold something, but at the same time, you want to know the details on the product. So,
Right.
like, don't make me want to like feel like you're trying to sell it to me, but I kind of really want to know, did you like it, and where'd you get it, and where can I get a discount?
What do you think, Alex? You're probably getting approached now. I know you work with Wirecarry, for instance.
Yeah, so a little different spin rather than just like product integrations, because they have a kind of a two-sided deal here. So as I started out saying, like, I create content so I can drag race. So for example, when we did this build series on the 55, we built a full tube chassis car in a matter of 4 months. And there were a lot of amazing companies that were involved in that project. And so I had the chance there to share products that I really needed and I really was going to be using, and was able to very naturally integrate that. So that was a combination of like a racer going to a company on that side, and then also a content creator being like, I know that this is a two-sided deal, so here's what I can offer in exchange for what you're able to like, how can we work together? And so those are my favorite ones, where I'm actually able to share something that's got some real depth to it that naturally fits in. But there are some that do approach that's a little bit different than your product, or maybe a car part or something like that. And those just like Emily said, is you have to look at it and evaluate it. And even though sometimes there may be something that's alluring to it, you might get something for free, or you might get some, money in exchange, but it can also hurt you or hurt the brand. And so you have to weigh that out very carefully. I typically stray away from using or, integrating anything that I wouldn't naturally use, because people see through it 100%. So you can't fool anybody. Like everybody will know. So there's nothing wrong with trying something out, and then if it works, you can, maybe you learn something. So sharing it is actually, worthwhile. So I think as long as you're kind of like navigating that, don't jump on everything. Emily and I had this conversation the other night, actually. Like, don't just jump on everything that comes your way, because everything can't be a sell. Like, people will get tired of that as well. So that's kind of the take I think that I've gone about that.
On the last part of the question, on the legal side, Justin, how do you recommend when these companies do come to you, should there be a contract involved, or should it be a handshake? How do you usually address this for your clients?
Lawyer questions here. I don't know about this.
We love those.
I guess let me go back for a second. I want to talk about the brand side of this. And if you are a brand that is looking to integrate with influencers, you should never be doing these onesie-twosies, hey, Emily, just pimp this thing out for 3 posts and I'll give you $500 and then let's move on. Because it's not going to work for you, it's not going to work for Emily, and literally no one's going to buy it. So you can redo your strategy there, and instead of trying to do that, find really long-term relationships that are going to work for you really well over time. I think everyone on this panel has been doing this a long time. We all have long-term relationships with each other that, the interest compounds over time. And brands should do the same thing, I see brands do that where it's like they'll pass over 30 people that are currently using their product and are really big fans of their product to try to find one influencer that's bigger than all of them that's not using their product or is using a competitive product. And that seems like a silly strategy to me, Use the people that love you. They're going to say really good things about you. Right. And then if you want to work with someone that's bigger, work with them naturally. Say, hey, try it out. Let me know what you think. Let's work together. Let's integrate. Let's do this long term. Short-term ad buys with social media influencers are the best way for a brand to lose money, but on the flip side, they're a great way for influencers to make money. So I see why that gets a little sticky there, but from a brand perspective, just don't do that. If you're sitting in the audience and you're like, I sell wastegates and I just launched a new wastegate and I want to give a wastegate to everyone on this panel and I'm going to be successful, it's not going to work on a one-time post.
Got it. We have about 5 minutes before we get to the Q&A session, so I'm going to jump to my favorite question that I like to bother influencers with. How do you make money in social media influencing? And they all hate answering this question. And how do you track money coming in? I think it's the most interesting question, because if I'm trying to build my audience, I want to, like Jeff's 9-year-old daughter, I want to see my cupcake money start rolling in the door. So how do you guys kind of handle this question? And obviously you don't get into this to make money, correct? We'll start with Jacklyn.
Yeah, like I said, I had no intentions of sharing so much on social media.
Right.
But now that people know a lot of, about you over time, my social media is a lot different. I know these guys on YouTube make a lot, and I don't want to speak for any of that, but I don't have a YouTube presence. So there's different ways you can kind of go about it, but essentially through my audience. So I'm able to pull analytics, and I can share that with brands, or I can share that with companies, and that's essentially my powerhouse, right?
Right.
I add all this together and I'm like, this is my number and this is my reach, and does this make sense, and where can we go from there? That's kind of how I would track and pull all of it together.
Great answer. I'll ask Emily, because she's been doing this a while.
Yes, and I will touch on the contract thing as well. We sign a lot of contracts, and I think that they're very, very effective, and they help the companies that you work with feel good about working with you. As you were saying about the quickie, hey, let's just do this post, and I 9 times out of 10 will pass those up, because I want to have a long-term relationship with that, and with a company, most likely that company, but at the same time, I've signed a lot of contracts with other companies that I don't want to dilute myself for them, just to make a quickie bit of cash from this company that wants me to push this product. As influencers now, like in the world that we're living in, we get emails about teeth whitening, fit tea, skinny tea, whatever the tea is, all these different companies that want to pay you for posts. And man, it's a slippery slope, because you could get into doing so many ads and just like use the folks that follow you, like, oh my gosh, this is leverage. I can make money doing this. But I mean, clearly you guys have never seen me make a post about fit tea. Like, that is not my jam. I respond to the people and I say, thank you so much, but that's not my audience. It's not something that I'm interested in. And there's a lot of power in that, but then at the same time, you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm really trying to make something of this. I want to create revenue. I want to be able to do this as a job. So it's this interesting balance. But I think that holding out and waiting for companies that you believe in, and then believing also that that company is going to look at you and say that person's value is there. They are valid marketing dollars. And to be somebody that's respectable and admired in the industry is a goal, not only just for your personal satisfaction, but for companies to work with you because you are a good person in the industry. So there's so many elements to it, but making money is a very important role in being able to continue to do it. I mean, my gosh, we all want to have fun, build stuff, go adventure, but we have to make money to do that somehow. You either have a separate job that drains you and then you maybe can't be present in your content creation, or do you make money for your content creation? And for us, Aaron and I, when we looked at our life and like, okay, who do we want to be? What do we want to do? That is build cool stuff, have adventures, make memories, and it would be really amazing if we could inspire other people to want to do the same thing in whatever they're passionate about. So for me, and it's so much heart is there because I have that goal of who we want to be, and part of that is affecting other people and making them feel good and making them want to do cool stuff too.
What a great spot to finish up on. Thank you, Emily. That was awesome. A little applause for my group here. I'm going to open it up to Q&A if you guys want to go to the mic and ask my wonderful panel anything. We've got about 15 minutes, and we'd appreciate it.
I guess I'll start. Since we're giving out handles this morning, mine's Racer Collect.
Love it.
Like to get a follow or a new company. And that's the basis of my question. How did you guys all start? We're not a content creator. We're trying to get our brand out there. How do we start? I'm doing the paid ads.
Are you a racer? You're a racer? Race team?
No, we're a race retailer.
A race retailer, so you
We're
sell
doing
components?
memorabilia. Primarily, we're working with drivers and teams to help them sell their memorabilia, their helmets, their gloves, body parts, stuff like that. So,
This is NASCAR
open
memorabilia?
wheel primarily.
Open wheel memorabilia. Okay. So you have a big opportunity here, right? Because you can also share images of this content. You could be
Right.
selling it on social media. Are you on all the platforms?
We're on most of them, TikTok and some of the fringe ones we're not into right now.
Yeah, you have a big opportunity here. I hope that you're using hashtags. Use a couple hashtags, no more than 5.
How do you come up with the hashtags? You just search for them or you create your own? That's the other thing.
Hashtag racing, hashtag
Whatever
vintage
is-
racing. Yeah.
It's great to have your own hashtag because that's a world we live in now too. Like if someone sees a hashtag and they're like, oh, that's cool, and it's yours, then they click on it. They can see all of your posts and anywhere that anybody else has posted your stuff. If they love the gear that they're in, they're like, oh my gosh, hashtag your hashtag because it's your
Right.
brand, then that's a great hub for people to see your content. Like anytime I hashtag Flying Sparks Garage, I can look at all our stuff and I can look at other people that post stuff that relates to us. But then the other element would be looking at who your target market is and what you think they'd be stoked to see. That's going to be a huge thing because once they're stoked, then they're going to have a friend that's also into that and they're going to be like, oh, dude, check this out. Like, it's very effective. Give something away. People love free stuff.
That was
Tag a
our-
friend, follow us, show this on your story. Like,
We just
simple
did one
stuff,
like
but
that.
very
We got
effective.
a good response on that. So
Yeah. I would also say, not to speak over here, make sure that you're following people in the industry as well. So you'll see your business and be in those conversations is going to be helpful with building your brand.
Yeah, I think people forget that it's called social media, not brands yelling at people through their phone media. So, like, be social, right? Like, everybody wants followers, but no one wants to follow anyone else. And that's a huge mistake. So, if you're building a brand, comment, follow people, be genuine, interact with them, like their stuff, just get into that community, right? And through that, someone who follows, you know, a racer is going to see you posting and commenting, and they're going to say, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what this guy's up to. And click on your page and go, oh, man, I love that guy, and I can buy this memorabilia right from this guy. So I think that's a huge mistake that people make, is they just think about themselves and their page. We've all done this. You know, it's not... And they forget that, like, the people that you want to comment on your stuff want you to comment on their stuff, too. So
Yeah,
just,
don't wait for them to come to you. Go to them.
Yeah.
good point. Thanks.
Thank you. Dave Cash from QA1. He's a marketing manager. He's going to ask us a very awesome question here in a second. No pressure, Dave.
I feel like I just saw you plant this question over there.
Well,
You, like, walked over to him.
No, I just wanted to get a manufacturer's point of view.
No, thanks, John. How do you guys approach crossing channels to channels? So there's a lot of focus on how you guys grow your specific channels, but whether it be with manufacturers or from influencer to influencer, how do you guys cross channels, and what have you learned there?
When you say cross channels, do you mean like help one channel grow another channel, or
Yeah, so like-
content-wise
Yeah, so
crossover?
for example, you know, we've seen like with the Hot Rod Power Tour, a lot of the influencers get together or join up with the manufacturers to help promote other channels. What have you guys seen there?
Well, I mean, it's all such a community. So whenever we, like when we all cruised together that one day on Power Tour, when I sent out a big group text and was like, hey, we're all going to meet here and cruise out together, and it ended up like a dozen YouTubers, and QA1 and Holly was there. We all cruised together. I think it communicates to the public that we're all friends and this is all community, and we're all doing this stuff and having fun, and it creates that family vibe that people want to be a part of something. And so I got so many messages that day like, this is so cool, you guys are actually all friends, and there's, you know, manufacturers, there are people that are actually selling stuff, but they're out enjoying their own stuff too. Like when I posted y'all's truck that, you know, says QA1 on the side, but it's actually out there hitting the road. Like it's not being trailered from stop to stop. It's driving, and that makes a difference to people to see that.
Right.
So as a manufacturer, I feel like you do a great job at it, showing you guys enjoying the product, not just trying to sell it, but being out there and using it and enjoying it, and then teaming up with us who have, you know, other people that are following us is, of course, effective too.
You were going to say something else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, attesting to that, like, when manufacturers can actually interact, I know that there's discussions of, like, shop tours or going down, like, recently I went down to Dream Giveaway, and instead of just posting pictures of cars that they're giving away, like, we're able to create content together and make that where it's, like, not just a brand, it brings personality and life to a brand. So those companies, I think, that are interacting to build a deeper partnership, I think that's where the success comes and that channel naturally grows, because now you're associated with that rather than just being like the, oh, I bought an ad spot kind of thing. Like I think that's how channels, it's the community. It's all about the community, the personality, and the faces associated with it, I think.
It's just a more organic integration into the storyline.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there was certainly a rush in time where it was like, tag me in the post and then tag me 8 times in the comments, and you know, like people, no one's gonna do that, right? I've never been to a page and been like, wow, this person was tagged several times in a row. I better follow QA1, right? Like we're all guilty of that. We've all tried that. People, I said this yesterday, like people are really dumb and people are really smart, right? So sometimes you need to tell them a little bit like, hey, this is where you need to go. But when people see cool things and the people that they love using it, they're going to be like, oh, QA1, they must be badass. Let me see what's going on over there, right? So I think it is more natural now. Everyone wants that trackable. All brands want that. Like, well, Emily, you tagged us, and I don't think we picked up any followers. It's like, well, not yet, but over time you will. So it's hard. The new collab feature on Instagram, though, I think is a game changer for that. So if people aren't using that yet, I would definitely look at it. If you're a brand, it's a great way to do it. Have influencers create content and have them invite you to be a collaborator. It shows on both pages. You share the metrics now. So if I follow Emily or I follow you, I'm going to see the content, but I'm going to see both of your names on top of it. And when I comment, it's on both pages. I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for that type of growth, as opposed to like stealing the picture after an influencer uses it and then reposting it, because now you're competing with each other. So there's tools for that.
Very cool. Thank you.
There's a question behind you.
Yes, we're dropping brands. So callthegrid.com is my brand. So basically, I use content primarily as a funnel to bring people in and to provide value and to inform. My niche is sports car racing. So yeah, just kind of teaching people. It's a site basically that I wish existed when I started in this sport. But my question though is the YouTube partnership program. Any of you involved in that, and how does that work?
The actual tool on YouTube
Yeah, there's
partnership?
YouTube partnership. Yeah.
I've never
Is it-
used it,
okay.
never utilized it.
No, sorry. We can't actually answer that question, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, you stumped us. Sorry about
Sorry
that.
about that.
Yeah, any young guys in the audience, young girls, you guys have any questions for us? Yeah, come on up. Or, go ahead.
Howdy. All right. So starting up, when you're getting started, of course, income doesn't start right away. A lot of us are working full-time jobs. How do you manage your time and your funds going into this to get started before it can support itself?
I'm going to speak on this, I think, because I have several full-time jobs, actually. I am a #workaholic, and I don't think I manage it very well, but I try to say, okay, being committed, saying, all right, on these days, I want to try to post content. I need to share. I haven't shared anything on my stories, and balancing that. Sometimes you have to get content on a different day and then post it and wait on a different day. So it's not always instantaneous. It's not like, oh, I was at this place and I took this picture, or I did maybe with you guys with builds, posting it as soon as it's happening. Sometimes it is, but it doesn't have to be. So with your schedule and being super busy, just think about, hey, I want to create content, find some free time to create that content, and then consistently put it out over the times that you want to. So it doesn't have to be right then, right there, which I think sometimes like social media tricks us and says like, oh, it has to be right now. What you're doing exactly right today. It's like, yes, it can be, but it doesn't always have to be. So don't stress yourself out.
So I know starting up, consistency should be very important. Is there anything that's too long? Is there something that if you're posting too soon, kind of overwhelming yourself with the work? Or should you be spacing it out further and just...
Go ahead, guys.
You can go. I'll go
I feel like I've been talking too much. So for me, I don't worry so much about consistency, lengthwise, when I post. I just want to get stuff out that feels right to me. I don't want to judge it so much and then already go into this video with preconceived notions of like, oh, it's a little long, people aren't going to click on it, or oh, it's too short, there's not enough meat there. If it feels right to me and it's something that we did and I'm stoked about it, I'm going to try to judge it as little as possible and get it out there. Because there's going to be somebody that's going to want to click on it. Like maybe it might be too long. Maybe a 25-minute long video is too long for that guy. But that guy is super stoked to see a long one because he loves long videos. So if you judge it so much that it hinders your ability to get stuff out there and do it, and you think, oh, I have a full-time job, so I can't make long videos, make short ones. Like start somewhere and post it, and then you can learn as you go. And then the algorithm will change and you'll have to learn again.
Great answer. Before, I think we have time for one or two more questions. If you guys could scan the code on the back of your chairs and just, If you liked our little seminar, great. If you didn't, that's fine too. They just want a review of how we did at our seminar. But I think we have time for one or two more questions.
I'd say while you're walking up here real quick, like when you think about growing your channel and you think about time, extend your runway like a bunch, you know? So everyone up here wasn't an influencer 3 years ago, 5 years ago, but they were posting content. And sometimes it feels like you're just posting into the void and it's never gonna work for you. And you're like, man, I've been doing this for a year and like we're still a small YouTube channel and this is super frustrating. And like Emily or you know someone's growing at 10x the rate that I'm at. This thing is exponential, right? So it's not a linear, you know, you don't do that on YouTube. You do this on YouTube. So like extend that time frame. Don't panic week to week. Get content out. But like it's gonna take longer than you want it to, I think.
If it's something that you really want, don't try it because you will give up. It is a lot of work and it takes so much longer than you want it to take. And you're never gonna actually feel like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm like right on track. Like if you're a go-getter, you're always going to be setting that bar higher for yourself and judging yourself and feeling like you're not enough. But you cannot let that stop you from continuing to try if it's something you really want. Because if you just keep trying, you will get places.
While we're talking about YouTube, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, Jeff. Go
The
ahead.
beauty of YouTube, if we're talking about that, is that their algorithm is so advanced now. You know, a few years ago, everybody was trying all this black hat stuff with keywords and times and everything like that. Right now, YouTube cares about your watch time and your click-through rate. And those are so much more important than anything else. And so if you put out good video that people will watch more of, because when we get right down to it, YouTube just wants to be able to sell those ads in your video. So if people are watching more of your video, they're going to recommend it more. And if you have a good click-through rate, where more percentage of people are clicking on your video to watch it, they're going to promote it. And so that's the thing. I would say don't put out filler and don't worry about, my production schedule is about every 2 to 3 weeks, which is terribly slow. And I wish I could make it faster. But I'm not going to put out something in between that's just a waste of time, because next time the algorithm will go, oh, that last video that the Horsepower Monster put out didn't do very well with these people, so we're not going to show it to these people. So make sure that all of your videos are your best quality that you can do, and it'll grow.
All right. Final question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys being here, and I've really enjoyed this panel. I guess one question I have is to follow up a little bit on the conversation about partnered products or things that you guys are using in your videos. Has there ever been a time where you're using something and it's, as advertised, but maybe there's an issue with it, and you guys, because you're all, racers or builders or users of it, that you realize there's an issue and you want to represent that? How do you navigate that conversation with, the partner brand that you're working with? Because that's one thing that I'm wondering about is, if there is an issue that hey, this can be improved, how do you guys have those conversations with that manufacturer or brand?
Go ahead, Alex.
Yes, there are times that happens, especially when it comes to maybe you're doing something unique or you're using a product that is a newer product or something like that. And it never hurts to, for me, I've just reached out. I'm like, hey, in this instance, it's never like, hey, your product is awful. It's like, hey, in this instance, I found this issue, and here's how we improved it, and here's how we fixed it and moved forward. What do you think that could be changed? So I think that's what you're asking, but I also share that side too, but it's not in a negative sense. It's like, hey, this is a new product. This is how it could be improved, or this is how we made it work for our application, and I feel like that's what you're asking, but I think it's just the open conversation, because most likely they're going to want that feedback as well, because that may be an instance or an application that they hadn't had that experience with. So I don't think you don't have to tell them every single time that this worked perfectly. It's like, hey, this worked really great and I love it, but here's one thing that we noticed, kind of thing. And so that's the route that I've approached that with.
Yeah, from the brand side, I want to know about it not from watching the YouTube video that's already published, right? So communicate to the brand. Hey, I did this thing, I had this issue, I am going to be honest about it in the video, and if the brand's prepared, right, and they're like, okay, yeah, great, you can talk about that, we're actually working on a fix, blah, blah, blah. Now all of a sudden you're in a position to tell your fans, hey, I broke this, but Chevrolet Performance is actually coming out with this because of that, and blah, 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 and we're working on this, and you know, all of a sudden you end up with the Alex Taylor edition part because she broke it and made it better, and that's how you form those long-term relationships where people really trust you and the brands trust you too. Like I've had that before where, you know, you wake up as a brand and you're checking YouTube and there's a review that you are not aware of, and it may be something that the brand could have said to you, oh yeah, no, we've had that problem. This is what you need to do, or we need to send you a different part. So reach out to them first. Don't let them find out on the internet.
And I think in addition to that, like if the company's working with you, you're a little bit of a trusted test bed. Like I don't go out and badmouth a company that I worked with because they're a lot of long-term partners. And so there's a lot of value in that. Like it's not going to be somebody random that bought the product that finds the issue that's going to share every negative detail. Like rely on those people that you're working with for that feedback, because then it's kind of like you can navigate it and figure it out and see how you want to handle it.
And there's going to be some engineer on the backside of that conversation that's going like, I told you guys that was going to break. That's why I wanted it in this aluminum instead of that, you know? So they're going to want the feedback. Just be honest and open with the people you partner with and really, you know, trust them as if they're on your team. And then you can be honest, right? You don't have to hide behind bashing people or giving glowing reviews for no reason.
I have a scenario where I worked with a company and they sent me a radiator for my GTO, and I went to slide it in, had all the cameras, you know, set in the engine bays to get that shot for the radiator company, and the tabs, upper tabs, like hit the bracketry and the core support, and I was like, oh no, and Aaron and I looked at each other and I'm like, what do we do? Like I want to make them look good, but you know, what if a GTO bro buys this radiator? It's like, Emily slid right in, what the heck? So I dropped my guy a quick text at the radiator company and I was like, hey, do you guys ever run into this? Send him some video, little clips of what we ran into, and he said, actually, yeah, we run into that all the time. We get people calling the helpline all the time like, hey, it doesn't fit. What we tell them is it fit on the GTO that we molded it for. There's some kind of weird deal with their core supports. We get this call all the time. In fact, Emily, include this in your video. Like, tell them, just nip that tab off. Just make it fit. We're so sorry that you have one of the cars that has the bracket right there. And he was really thankful for that feedback, and he was like excited for me to be able to show that it didn't fit on my car, and all we had to do was a quick modification. And we're working with aftermarket parts, so it happens all the time. We all have ordered parts that don't fit, that should fit in an OEM scenario, right? So yeah. I think parts companies really appreciate honest feedback, and then for us to be able to be honest with our viewership also feels really good to us as well.
Yeah. And those are great ways to come up with new content, right? Like in that phone call, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's another video, right? I'm going to put this in and do that, but then I can come back and talk about, you know, fitment in this, or I can go to the company and create content about how they, you know, do test fits at their facility and what to look out for. So those little mistakes along the way end up being really good content, and especially on YouTube because it's searchable. You don't know when someone's going to be like, I really need the top 5 tips for installing this one exact part that not many people install, but they'll find it when they need it, right? So that's kind of that timing thing. But yeah, issues along the way end up being good if you're honest about them.
All right, great stuff. We're a little bit over time now, so I'd like a little applause for my panel, if you don't mind. And yeah, thank you all for coming again. If, we want your feedback, so scan the code in the back there if you want. If you want to ask my panel any questions, as long as they don't have somewhere to run off to, by all means, come on up and have a good PRI show.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to run to the restroom real quick, but I don't have anything until 11:30, so I can hang out and answer any questions one-on-one, or drop me a message on Instagram if you have something that comes up. Anytime, I answer almost all DMs, so.
It's true.
Yeah, just hit me up if something comes up and you need any of my ideas on.
Thanks, guys.